Hello, everyone. Welcome to Touching Base. I'm going to be your host, Eric Arnold, and today I'm going to be joined by Andy Enck, Joe Olson, and Andrew Hagrid. Gentlemen, how are you guys?
Good evening, Eric.
Yeah,
Doing great. Thank you.
Before we get started, the all-important question of the night, nothing sports related, but what are we drinking tonight? Andy?
A little strawberry Rita.
That's right. Breakfast of Champions.
I'm drinking a little Stone, the movie Lions hailing from Escondido, California.
Nice.
You went out there to go get that, right?
Exotic. I due to some slim pickings around my quarters here, I have a Bud Light pony-sized can, and that age could probably be best measured in years. But it's what we're gonna do.
All right, fair enough. Well, I myself have a Mully's IPA from a local brew around our parts. And so, gentlemen, I haven't seen you guys in a week. Let's touch base. The biggest news of the evening was Dak Prescott finally got his contract. He's going to stay a Cowboy, it looks like, for the next few years. Some people are saying it's a great deal. Some people are saying it's a terrible deal. I guess I wanted to just hear your thoughts on it.
Well, I feel like
I'll go first.
Sorry to cut you off there, Joe.
No, you'll go second, apparently.
I know. Sorry,
I'll go second.
My bad. Lamar Jackson's probably jumping up for joy because he's going to be getting a whole lot more money than this based on the stats, based on what's going on. And I feel like the Cowboys were going to have a quarterback at some point, and the best bet was just to pay Dak what they paid him. He was going to get that money regardless if it was the Cowboys or somewhere else. So I just think it was kind of had they handled it better like last year or the year before without the whole franchise tag, it probably would have worked out better. So sorry, Joe.
Oh, it's okay. I think that the happiest person in the world today is Dak Prescott, because here's what happened to him today, right? Instead of going on the Kirk Cousins plan of going franchise tag to franchise tag, although that's not a bad deal, getting paid $37 million a year. I mean, he has now set to receive a $66 million signing bonus. And after he's gotten strung along for just about 2 years of these contract negotiations, he's now literally $66 million richer as of the contract being finalized. That is the single biggest bonus ever in any player in any major sports league ever. So, and by the way, he's like still nursing that fractured ankle too. And so if I'm him, I'm the happiest person in the world right now. And so it is not only great for him because he is now even more set for life, but they kind of structured it in a way that it's team friendly. And it's almost, as much as this huge contract can be a win for both sides, it's something where you could almost say like, hey, Dak won. And also the Cowboys kind of won too, because as we dig into the contract a little deeper, you can see that there's not that much money that's going to be a cap hit for the next couple of years. And they have an opportunity where they can kind of build some stuff around him and really give them that team to make Dallas actually a legitimate contender again.
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, the contract is pretty large. You got 4 years, 160 million. Works out to like that 40 million APY average per year, which is a little bit still south of Mahomes from a year ago, but still pretty absurd relative. Yeah, sure, and it's still pretty absurd relative to the rest of the league. And yeah, to your guys' points, like the way the cap works anymore, and the way these teams are structuring these deals a lot, you'll get voidable years towards the back end of the contract that are essentially just pushes that 66 million prorated over 5 years as opposed to 4. So what could have been 66 4 ways, it's
2025.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you're lowering that cap number. So in essence, that cap, the tag rather, would have been 37 something this year, and his cap number actually comes in closer to 22.2 via overthecap.com. And that's to Joe, to your point, it breaks out pretty nicely. Over the next few years, it's not as absurd. And then the other thing that's kind of coming around to this, and some folks hinted about this today, is with the TV deal. TV deal is getting ready to come in, right? That salary cap's going to the moon in the next couple of years.
Do you think
next
they're
year
going to let it? Do you think the salary cap will go up? Do you think,
I mean, I didn't look
Owners
into
make
it.
let that happen.
I didn't read into it a ton when last week or so, but there's talk around the TV deal that it's like 100% of what it was last time, which is, I believe, already in the billions of dollars, like maybe a $2 or $3 billion TV deal last time it got negotiated. So that was like the owners' push to get the CBA done, so that there would be labor peace, so that we could get to the TV deal. Like it's going to be absurd. It's going to be well into the possibly near double-digit $1 billion over the next 10 years or whatever. Like the cap's going to fly.
I'm curious about that because there's no way that I see those owners giving up money as easily as possible. I mean, like, I know they're going to say whatever they need to do to get the CBA deal done. They're going to say it's going to be fair.
Sure, but I mean, even if the cap goes up to 250 million next year or the year after next, that's probably still about a tenth of what the league's going to bring in by then. The league's already in the double-digit billions in revenue each year. Maybe not this year because there is no attendance, but I think last year the league did like 12 or 13 billion dollars all told for the season, right? And then like what is attendance going to be like in the fall? What is the demand for tickets going to be like in the fall when people can go back to public events and you could have crowds again? Like, I think it's going to be wild.
Well, I think judging by like even like the opening day baseball ticket prices, once they go back in the fall for football again, it's going to be outrageous. And people are so quick to judge like the players of the NFL, saying, "Oh, they make so much money." The owners and the organizations make so much more, exponentially more than players do. The players are just a cog in that machine that gets paid all this money, and the TV deal is just going to make it even sweeter. And I was looking that Dak Prescott isn't even the biggest cap hit on their team for the next like 3 years. It's DeMarcus Lawrence.
Right.
So even then, making all that money, he's still not the worst cap hit on the team.
Do you think it's a good deal? Would you have signed Dak Prescott to that contract if you're the Dallas?
A year ago, yes.
Joe?
I'll tell you what, I think that it is just as well structured a deal in this environment as you could possibly expect, given all the factors that are in play. I mean, Andy, you just talked about what is attendance going to be like and what's the cap going to be like in the next couple of years. The cap hit for next year is only like $22 million. I mean, that's kind of a bargain for somebody like Dak. And it's almost like the Cowboys are hedging their bet a little bit about what is going to happen to the cap in the next 2 years with the first couple of years and the cap hit of this deal. And so I think that unless they thought that they were going to get Russell Wilson via trade or something like that, some of those wild things that are out there, Deshaun Watson, I think that this is their best option on the table. And the way that they structured this deal, where it's kind of 4 years for the player, but it could be 5 or 6, depending on how those things work out over the later years of the contract, I think it's a great deal for both sides.
Yeah, I agree with that. And to a couple of points you made there, with the insights of what the TV deal is going to be, who's going to have better information about that than Jerry Jones, right? In negotiating this deal, he's got to have a pretty keen awareness of what that TV deal is going to look like. You also mentioned the cap number, 22 million this year. Again, overthecap.com has it at about, wrong tab, has it about 33 next year, which is still really relatively inexpensive
Reasonable.
for a quarterback. Yeah, and then in 23 and 24, it gets to 44, 47. That's chunky, but again, like, what's the salary cap at that time? What other kind of moves
It's
have
going to
you
be
made?
the new norm.
And
we've seen that every year.
Yeah. To the roster's point, and to Andy's point about DeMarcus Lawrence is their big cap hit. It's a top heavy roster. That's the thing that concerns me, right? You have, this next year you have DeMarcus Lawrence, Dak, Amari, Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, Ezekiel Elliott, and those are all double digit cap hits next year.
Is Ezekiel Elliott with this team like in 2 years?
That's a better question.
Yeah, I don't think not with that cap number.
Probably not. No, and especially
I think also that they were gonna pay somebody $22 million to play quarterback, whether it was actually in cash or through draft picks or through some sort of trade, like through the Russell Wilson deal. They were gonna pay somebody that much amount of money, whether it was cash or whether it was trade or it was whatever. So they figured the best bet is to stay with Dak.
So that's actually what kind of brings me to the next point, because I want to talk about the state of the NFC East, because we see different philosophies happening. When these players were younger, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, even Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, part of their team's success was the fact that they had these quarterback-friendly deals where they were able to spend money throughout the rest of the roster. Now that you have these players taking, earning their paychecks and getting their, contracts that they absolutely deserve, is that going to affect the rest of the roster right now? In the NFC East, you still got some rookie deals out there. And then you've got really Dak. I mean, he's going to be the first one. Do you think, he's obviously the top quarterback in the division, but do you think it makes the team better, or do you think some other teams are set up better?
Well, the interesting thing is that Jalen Hurts is going to be the starting quarterback in Philly, but they're also in the mock draft, they're slated to get a quarterback. So they're not even sure.
Still paying Carson Wentz. I mean,
yeah.
They signed that deal,
If you want to go a step further, so Eric, you mentioned that not only did they have the Cowboys, that is, have the best quarterback in the division. I think that's a fairly large margin at this point, going before the draft, going into next season. Obviously, the most important position on the team.
You're not high on Taylor Heineke?
I think he's got a ceiling that hasn't been reached yet. I love my boys from Northwestern, but yeah, we'll see where he goes. But still, you think about what the state of the NFC East was at the end of last year, and having Dak as a fixture for the next few years is going to put them in a good position, and especially because they kind of have the cap hit in a way where they can kind of still wait and see with them a little bit, even though they're paying them this big signing bonus and everything like that. They know that going into the next 2 years, there's basically 100% chance that they're going to have the best quarterback in the division, and arguably, maybe the best coach also, is very, very close. And I think that with those two things probably being arguably the two most important things on a football team, that they're probably set up in a team in a division where a 7-9 team won the division last year, where they're probably going to be, set up to at least compete, if not win the division, at least the next 2 years.
Yeah, he and Kellen Moore seem to have a pretty good connection there.
I think Kellen Moore is a very underrated coach.
Yeah, absolutely. But if that's the case, should they have taken advantage of that? Should they have given him a new prospect? Or, I guess another question I want to ask you guys, and Andrew, I'm sorry for cutting you off here, but how much of a factor is Jerry Jones's health? How much does he want to win now? Does that factor in at all? I know we didn't talk about this pre-show or anything, but
I don't think it does. I think when you're the owner, when you have that much invested both in capital and literally, and emotionally, you're making decisions for longevity, right? And not that I think they'd ever have a hard time getting butts in the seats in Dallas, but I don't know. You want to put a good product on the team or on the field, regardless of if it's for the next 2 years because the old man might punch his card, or if it's because that's just the tradition, that's just Dallas, it's the Cowboy way, not to steal from New England, but I don't think that factors in as much.
I think something we haven't talked about with Dak Prescott is up until last year, he played 16 games every year, so he had durability, and now granted he did get injured, so I think it's kind of a fork in that road as far as, is it going to be an injury that is going to continue to be a problem, or is he going to bounce back and just be like, bam, back to playing 16 games? So I think that's, we talked about the deal being best for both sides. He could have made the deal somewhere with a lot more money, maybe potentially, but I think it's just the best of both worlds as far as the organization of the Cowboys are going.
Yeah, and you guys are talking about, maybe the next couple of years. I think, Jerry Jones has been the owner of the Cowboys now for, I think it's 33 years or something like that. However many years he does have left in that seat, it's certainly less than 10, I would think, and probably less than 5. And so I think there is a sense of urgency that he does want to win now. They haven't won for about 25 years now, at least the big ticket anyways. And he does want to take his best shot at getting one more title. And this is probably the closest to the boat, best option to get him there. The other thing that I just want to mention is that, Dak, that is, if Jerry really thought that he had an opportunity to get Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson or something like that, he would have taken a swing at that too,
Definitely the Deshaun Watson one. I think that's
the
in-state, right? I think that really factors in.
Right. I mean, if he was thinking that one of those two guys in particular was a trade option that was realistically on the table for him, especially with the timeline that he still has as the owner and everything like that, I think he would have taken a swing at it, and it probably wasn't looked like it was going to happen. And so this was the best option on the table, and it certainly isn't a bad one.
If we count up their record at the end of this contract, let's say at the end of 4 years, are they over or under 500 in that time?
Over. Not by a lot, but over.
Enck?
I mean, I think they made the playoffs 3 out of 4 years. Then at that point, really,
7-9 made the playoffs. Over or under 500.
really,
Yeah.
I think they're over too, but they've been very, very close to 500.
I was gonna
if
say, haven't
not
they been
exactly
500 pretty much
500 over
their
the
entire
last
career?
25 years. So I until they prove me otherwise, I think they're going to be a 500 team.
I mean, I think when you're in the division that it's nicknamed the NFC least, I think you're okay being under 500 a little bit.
It's been the NFC beast too, in
Yes,
that 25-year times, And let's not forget which team gave Tampa Bay the most amount of run. One of the closest games out there was the team running right out of that NFC least that you're talking about. And they themselves, I mean, like the rest of the quarterback situations. So besides Dak, you've got Taylor Heineke, Danny Dimes, and Jalen Hurts. Essentially, that's the other 3 quarterbacks. Which one of those are you taking?
Pass.
Mac Jones.
Yeah.
If I must take one, I'd probably say Jalen Hurts, because I think he probably has the highest ceiling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that. He did some stuff down at Alabama, and that's a high end offense too. That's not a pick half the field or pick a quick read out of the RPO or something. He's a guy that would have a range in offensive capabilities and has demonstrated things both as a passer and as an athlete, as a runner.
I mean, I think Jalen Hurts' throw in overtime in the national championship game alone puts him above a lot of quarterbacks.
Well, wasn't that Tua? Are you talking about? Didn't he get replaced by Tua? And didn't Tua throw the touchdown?
I gotta switch them around now.
Yeah.
Alabama, we're all the same.
Yeah, and then it went to Oklahoma. Did well.
I know, right?
I mean, I don't know. There's something to him. I mean, there's something to the character. I don't know if there's something to the skill set. But clearly, he's got something. Nobody's going to jump on the Taylor Heineke.
I'll look at it closely. Kind of.
You ever watched enough tape on him in the 2 games?
I'm sure his mom supports him. I don't.
What do you see the Redskins, trying to do? Or I'm sorry, not the Redskins. I'm sorry, they don't exist. What do you see the football team trying to do? Are they set with Taylor Heineke, or do you think they're going to go elsewhere?
I feel like they have to bring somebody in at least to push Heineke, at least to kind of. You could get a seasoned veteran to challenge him, at least to give
Tyrod, Marcus Mariota,
Tyrod Taylor with his lungs and everything.
Yeah, Washington not known for the best medical staff, even though they won some award, but I believe one Trent Williams has something to argue against that.
Sure.
Yeah.
How about the former Audubon / Carolina / quarterback from New England?
Just say
reuniting with his old coach. That's not me. That's Eric.
I think
Spam Tootin. We got Spam Tootin.
Yeah. That quarterback is incredible, in his time in California or in Carolina. I don't see it happening. I think if they wanted him, I think they would have gotten him last year. I think if they wanted him, they would have already gotten him by this point. I think there's more to that story than what we realize, and probably that we're ever going to be told, but when both the head coach and the offensive coordinator who's been spending so much time with you haven't brought you in, I mean, they might be having conversations. And I think, Mr. Newton said that on I Am Athlete, said that they were having conversations, but wouldn't go into detail. But I don't know what this kind of conversations look like. I'm guessing, another, 1 year, show me backup, you can compete for the starting gig, which I think is a fair, option. I don't know what other option they're going to have out there. But one of the things I've noticed too, not just with Washington, but a lot of teams around the league, the trades for the Deshaun Watsons, the trades for the Russell Wilson has been, kind of picking up a little bit of steam lately, but some of the trade markets, the Sam Darnold's out there, seems to be slowing down here a bit. I don't know if that's just because, free agency is coming out and everyone wants to see what's going to happen there first, or if some of these deals are potentially already in place. And they don't really need to do anything else, or they're just waiting closer to the draft.
I feel like the quarterback position right now is just kind of down a little bit. There's not any like clear cut QB1s for franchise level quarterbacks right now. There's, potential all-stars, potential like veterans that will step up and lead you to the playoffs. There's not, a Tom Brady type or Aaron Rodgers type that is just, you got to have them. There's just these starters that do well.
I would still argue I would not spend top dollar on a quarterback. I know that seems to be the trend. I know that a lot of teams do that. You've got your Aaron Rodgers, you've got your, but even Tom Brady. Tom Brady was taking these, smaller deals so the rest of the roster could get their money too, and they could, stay intact. I really think that's going to be the key to this. I think there's even though there is a difference between college and NFL, that's always going to be a huge gap. I do think you're going to be able to find some of these bargain guys that can, win you or keep you competitive in these games. And I don't know, once these guys start getting these huge contracts, I think it's too much of I can't justify it. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable giving any of these guys. These guys are too big, too fast, too strong on defense. I think injuries become a factor into it. And I think, it's easier to spread that dollar throughout the rest of the roster if it's me. And I know this isn't John Madden football, and that's typically, the way we do it on there. But I just don't, there's so much value being put into one guy. And I just don't know if that's the most efficient way to do it.
Well, we started talking about this earlier, and Andy alluded to Lamar Jackson, and we were saying earlier, those guys from that year, Baker and Darnold and Josh Allen, all those guys are getting ready. They're entering their fourth year.
Josh Allen about to get paid.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the question. Like, if you're a Buffalo, if you're a Cleveland, you're talking about feeling shy about, distributing all this money out to this one position. Where are you on that? What do you think? And, relative now, what to that contract? What do you think? Where do you think those go?
They probably stay where they're at. I mean, like if you look at someone like a Buffalo and a Cleveland, I don't know if I can let them go. There is too much heart involved into that. I really don't. I mean, maybe Baker leaves. I could see, possibly, but there would have to be a good trade out there, and Cleveland's got a pretty good cap situation, I thought too. So they're going to be able to afford to probably keep him around. I don't know what Buffalo's cap situation looks like, or if you have it there in front of you, but they're going to have to pay Allen, aren't they? I mean, I can't see them letting him go. They've invested too much in that entire roster, especially if they have another good year this year. Lamar Jackson, honestly, is the one that I'm most curious about. I know that they're in preliminary talks, now. But would you pay Lamar Jackson that type of money? I know the numbers are all there, but it's a different style of play. He's caught up. He's beaten every expectation. He didn't move even in the draft. They wanted him to move to the wide receiver position. He didn't do it. Ended up being a first-round pick. Obviously has had a ton of success. Would you guys pay Lamar Jackson?
Well, I'll tell you this, right? The style that Lamar Jackson plays, it definitely works, but we don't know yet if it works long-term. Right. And so with that, I'll say he definitely deserves a paycheck. And I think that it's going to probably land somewhere south of these Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers type of deals that are out there, because
Jared Goff,
whatever it is. I just think that every owner that's thinking about signing Lamar Jackson, as good as he's been, wants to see two things. They want to see, one, him get better as a prolific pocket passer, because that's just the way that you win
when the legs
in today's
go,
NFL.
have to rely on the arm more.
And two is that no matter how good he gets, as long as he keeps running and playing the way that he does, they're still going to have that thought in the back of their mind that any given play could be the one that he gets hurt on. And even though he hasn't gotten hurt like that yet, I still think that's going to be in the back of their mind, and it's going to be held over his head when he's trying to sign a long-term deal.
I think with Lamar Jackson especially, he's a quarterback that you can game plan against more so than a lot of other quarterbacks. You can have all the amazing wide receivers and tight ends and running backs that can catch out of the backfield. But if you're a quarterback that can be game planned against, it doesn't matter how well you throw the ball or how fast you can run. If you can't figure out what's going on with the defense, it doesn't matter what can happen.
I disagree with that. I mean, I think Lamar Jackson is actually probably more difficult to game plan against, especially like X's and O's wise. I mean, at any point in time, you know that he can take off. And it's funny because, you know, we sit there and talk about Lamar Jackson, but look about Carson Wentz, you know, someone who, you know, gets freak injury after freak injury, and he is a pocket passer. You know, why aren't we, you know, so worried about him? You know, is it unfair? I mean, we do sit there and look at the other, you know, quarterbacks probably similar. And I would say Cam Newton is probably someone who's run a similar, you know, has had a similar skill set. You know, I think about Bob Griffin III.
Cam Newton's got about 80 pounds on Lamar Jackson.
That's true too. You know, that's true.
Plus, he does this when he scores a touchdown.
Yeah, he's invincible. Yeah.
Yeah, but Lamar.
I think that Lamar Jackson, though, I mean, he's definitely earning the trust of the league with every game and every win that piles up. But he's still going to have that thought in the back of the owners' minds when they're thinking about signing him to big money, that he could get hurt with this style of play, and he's going to be working uphill. I'm not saying that it's something he can't overcome, but he needs to prove that he's down big in a game and he can throw the football to come back and win a big game before he's going to get a big contract. You know, no matter how many regular season games he wins, I think that that's going to be held over his head.
And I'll also tell you, there's going to be some bad taste in the mouths of the Baltimore front office and fans for big quarterback money. Joe Flacco got a ginormous contract extension right after winning Super Bowl MVP, which maybe he earned that.
I'm looking at some of these names, you know, kind of like, you know, on the list, like Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo, Derek Carr, Kyler Murray is another one that's going to be coming up here in a few years. I'm curious to see how that happens, you know, especially with his, you know, body type. But he seems to be able to avoid it more than, you know, some of the other, you know, guys on here. But I mean, who would you rather have? I mean, like, I don't know what other category I'd put him in. I mean,
I think that the quarterback position right now is so dynamic that there's tiers, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. But even within those tiers, there's certain skill sets that these quarterbacks have that if you don't have the rest of the, you know, people around that quarterback, it doesn't matter. If you put Lamar Jackson in Philly or somewhere else, he's not going to do the same thing because they don't have the same, you know, build up around him.
All right, I'm gonna read some names here of some potential quarterbacks the year that Lamar Jackson becomes available. Okay, so we've got Ben Roethlisberger is going to be available. Taysom Hill is going to be available. It looks like Sam Darnold's going to be available. Any of these guys you're sitting there taking over him yet? I mean,
not yet.
But Josh Allen, you know, but I can't imagine he's going to be getting away from Buffalo. Let's see. Lamar Jackson, Joe Webb, Josh. I mean, you know, a lot of these guys, he is going to be the top of it. He and Josh Allen are going to be the top of their class. I cannot see them leaving.
And then you go two very distinct types of quarterback, both awesome tier 1, tier 2 quarterbacks. But again, they're split.
And Josh Allen runs a lot too. I mean, like, you know,
he does, but not the same as Lamar.
80 pounds on Lamar Jackson.
Yep. Cannon arm, all that stuff. Can I just say that you mentioned Sam Darnold and Lamar Jackson too? Can you guys just think for a second what would happen if Lamar Jackson had played his first few years with the Jets and Sam Darnold had played his first few years with the Ravens, and how different that might be and how much fit matters?
Happens every year.
Know, I mean,
it happens every single year.
Yeah, Sam Darnold played with probably the worst coach in the history of the universe for his first few years. And
there would butt fumble 2, butt fumble 3, butt fumble 4 at this point with the Jets, with Lamar Jackson and the Jets. It's just
there's no relegation in the NFL, but had that happened, I think they would have introduced it for the very purpose of sending the Jets to like the SEC or something. No, that's not even good. To like, I don't know, the MAC. They have MAC football.
Hashtag Maction.
Yeah. But I'll never understand the Gase deal. I really won't. I mean, like, didn't Peyton Manning apparently, like when he was in Buffalo, like have his own playbook that he was passing out? And
if you want to listen to a crazy person tell you about how bad Adam Gase was for the New York Jets, you tell me when and where you'd like me to tell you about it.
Yeah, well, how much better are the Jets going to be just because of the subtraction of Adam Gase?
Eric, they could have showed up without a coach and it would have been an improvement.
Okay. All right. Did you get your resume ready?
No, I was. I don't have that one ready for that one, but I appreciate you put me up for. I think the GM.
But you had the eye.
I sure did. Yeah. For those not knowing, I did send a resume in for Andrew to be I think it was either the head coach or the GM of the Jets based on your Madden and NCAA skill sets, and really just kind of hoping to get that rejection letter so I could send it to you, But sadly, that pass was incomplete as well. But you just hold on tight. There's going to be some more openings here soon. No pun intended. But yeah, okay, all right. I just we have only, let's see, about 4 minutes. Next week we're going to be talking more, I guess, college basketball. I know, Andrew, your favorite subject, but I believe we'll have some tournament brackets to be filled out next week. Just early predictions. Do you guys have anyone right now that you're saying, like, do you have an underdog or do you have a favorite?
I say Gonzaga and Baylor do not make the Sweet 16.
Neither team makes the Sweet 16.
Neither of them.
You're nuts. Okay. How much
weak sauce?
How's that strawberry margarita there? Yeah. Joe, who you got?
I say that both Michigan and Gonzaga make not only the Sweet 16, but the Elite Eight easily. And the only thing that might hold Gonzaga up is that they haven't gone in the heavyweight battles of the Big Ten all year, but they are as good as it gets.
Yeah. I mean, I know personally, I've been looking, Baylor was so impressive when they had that game against West Virginia the other night. That's probably the first time I really sat down and watched them play. It's probably going to skew my vision of them because it was just such an impressive, final few minutes of that game. So I feel like Baylor's going to be up there. And from a Big Ten standpoint, I do feel like Michigan's going to be there at the end. I know that they've been struggling a little bit of late, because they lost to Illinois. But I think they just have everything, like, statistically, when you look at their roster, they're going to have everything they need going into the tournament. I wouldn't want to face them. I probably would rather face, even though they're the hotter team right now, Illinois. I think I would rather play Illinois than I would Michigan at any point. And Andrew, I know we've got 2 minutes here of your primetime analysis on this, and I know you're going to be thrown. Who do you got?
The Mid-Atlantic Athletic Conference tournament is ongoing currently. The Manhattan College Jaspers are down 3 to another team in that conference. Fairfield University, Fairfields. The Manhattan College Jaspers, a number of years ago, back in a better time in my life, defeated Florida in the national tournament, and only to face Chris Paul and Wake Forest, and then meet their eventual demise then. But
they were back on campus soon.
Yeah.
to talk about that big win. All right, guys. Well, we are pretty much. It's time for us to go. As always, it's nice catching up with you guys. Nice touching base. If you've got anything left, I'll make a cheers to you guys. It's great talking to you.
See you guys next week.
Cheers, guys.
Have a good one, guys.
See you next week.